Hello, VC. Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back to my garage, my humble abode. Guys, this is a video I was just inspired to do. 10 not so great albums. Now, these 10 not so great albums, in my opinion, are by bands, by artists that I really respect and enjoy. Some of them are my top acts. But these are 10, in my opinion, that aren't so great. I'm going to kick it off with Wilco, AM. This was their debut album after splitting from Uncle Tupelo. There was a lot of hype about this album in the industry magazines like Gavin, Album Network. A lot of build up to it. A lot of build up to this, and I was rather disappointed. It came out the same time that Trace came out by Sunvolt, and Sunvolt was the other half of Uncle Tupelo, kind of. And they went on to do great shit. They've given us Star Wars. They gave us freaking A Ghost Is Born. I really like Wilco, one of my top bands. Not a great album by them. This next guy is in my top 3 favorite singer-songwriters ever. 60 years putting out great music. Timeless classics. He put out a few stinkers. This album is not one of my favorite. By Bob Dylan, Street Legal. There's not one song that jumps out on here for me. That's just my opinion. Jeff Calico Silver, I'm sure will probably disagree with me. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a diehard Bob Dylan fan. Maybe he will, I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're all entitled to our own opinion. This is the guy that gave us frickin' Blonde on Blonde. This is the guy that gave us frickin' so many great albums, man. Saved, Slow Train Coming, Modern Times. This next lady, you go back in the 60s, grab any album by her, especially her live albums. This woman is she's a classic. She's a legend. I mean, no disrespect. I really, really like Aretha Franklin, but this was not one of her best. Unfortunately, it did have a radio hit from the 80s. Total top 40 album. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. Aretha. This was not one of her best albums. A not so great album. Now, all these acts I'm showing are people that I dig, man. I've got multiple albums by these people. The Rolling Stones are the world's greatest rock and roll band. My favorite rock and roll band. Bridges to Babylon, not such a great album. I couldn't get into it back in the day. There's a couple cool songs on here, okay? I'm not saying the album sucks. None of these albums outright suck. They're just not great albums, and they're all by great artists. The Rolling Stones, you gave it a good shot. Neil Young, and this is loaded with some great guest stars like Waylon Jennings. Old Ways, he made a country album. Neil Young, he gave us Harvest. He gave us frickin' a lot of great stuff, man. Southern Man, the same guy that gave us Southern Man and Sella put this out. I love Neil Young. I don't love this album. This is not a great album by Neil Young. Sorry, Neil. Some of these are worse than others. His next band is probably the greatest jam band ever. In my opinion, this is very arguably, but in my opinion, it's my opinion. The greatest American rock and roll band ever. The Grateful Dead. This was their official last studio album. Built to Last. Very disappointing. This came out after In the Dark. People had the hopes up, and yeah, has Blown Away on here. Has a couple really cool songs, but it's at the bottom of the list of their catalog for me. This is not a great album. Again, all in my opinion. This next guy, Randy Newman. He's made one of my favorite albums of all times, in Little Criminals. This album, not a great album. It's based on a book, or actually it's based on a play. I'm sorry, it's based on a play. Randy Newman. This has Jackson Browne on it, Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor, a few other people. Very big names. And it is based on a musical, on a play, and it's not a great album. Randy, it's just not a great album. This next guy is another one of my favorite singer-songwriters ever. Going back to some serious country rock roots to more folk music to Americana, tearing it up in the 90s. Steve Earle, I'm talking about. This one. Oh my God. Terraplane. His attempt to make a blues album. Air Corazon, I Feel Alright. So many cool albums. Steve, come on. Getting down to, I think, 2. I just watched a video by a new channel. I think it's James Music and Horror. Please check him out. He's got less than like 200 subscribers. James Music and Horror. And he was showing his favorite Black Sabbath albums. And his number one favorite Black Sabbath album has made my list. I'm talking Black Sabbath. It's actually a Tony Iommi album, solo. Oh my God, I love Sabbath, Masters of Reality. Their debut, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Sabotage, man, they got some great stuff. And this isn't a bad album. This is not a bad album, but it's not a great album. Not a great album. And last but not least, I'm going to show the Kinks. The Kinks put out some great rock and roll. This is a soundtrack. Percy's the name of the movie. I like the Kinks a lot. I don't like this album. It's not a great album, guys. And there was one album I was going to show I thought I had, and it was Hot Space, I guess the name of it is. Is that right? Hot Space by Queen. And the only reason I thought I had it was because I thought it came in their box set, but was not included in their studio albums, Crown Jewels. But that's another really disappointing album, in my opinion. 10 not so great albums. I'd love to hear your opinion on these. I'd love to see you make a video, 10 not so great albums, by the artists that you dig. Peace. Guys, be good. Don't forget, my contest is still going on. I'm going to postpone the deadline to January 1st. Boom. Give you more time. And it's simply 10 things you want musically for 2023. Peace.